This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Oakland Athletics.
And the pitch is swung on, hit the right field, hit deep. Whitefield going back at the track, over his head, and over the wall. Do you believe that?
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Hey, it's a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a Judgian blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of A's Cast Live, the Wednesday edition. Turn me down just a little bit there, Commander Cody, on the headset. I am very excited about today, and one of the reasons why I'm excited, get rid of that water bottle. One of the reasons why I'm super excited is we are in San Francisco at the NBC Sports California studios. They call it the Xfinity Room. And as you can see, it's like we're getting the full treatment today, the full setup. Now, if you're listening on our streaming platform at athletics.com/AceCast, you just turn me down. All right, there you go. If you're listening athletics.com/AceCast, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Just trust me on this one. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, you can see it. We've always had this killer Oakland background. So it's Mount Davis, it's Oakland, and the kind of the green screenish thing where if you're here, you can't tell these are actual clouds. They're blurry. Like I turn around now and I look at the same thing you're looking at right now. It's just blurry. I can't tell what it is, right? But when a camera hits it and the right lighting, it looks like a beautiful sunset. It's like magic.
Like Disneyland?
Am I right? Like we look at it, you cannot tell that's a sunset.
No.
And you can't even tell it's Mount Davis. We can only see Oakland. But when you and looking at it right now, that you can't tell anything. But you put a camera on it and the correct lighting, voila, it is magic. And what you're seeing right now looks so awesome. Not only is that the beautiful clouds above Mount Davis and Oakland, look at the sunset, the colors. That is killer.
I agree. I
need this for my house.
Nothing against one we have at the road studio, but
well, it's the same kind of thing, but we don't have the clouds.
By the way, do we call this the road remote studio or remote studio, San Francisco studio?
We do not. We're clearly visitors here.
The guest studio.
We're guests. We're guests. Yeah. Now, if we were Warriors live, or Giants live, may be different. Here, we're guests.
Did we do it one time last year where we did a road game from the field at the Coliseum? It was just you and me at the Coliseum. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Wait, what?
There was a time where we were in Oakland for something. Yeah. Remember we did a show from the Coliseum when the team was on the road and they were doing like a home run derby or something.
Batting practice.
With season ticket holders?
Yeah. Yeah, something happened. We couldn't do it at the Jack London offices. So the next clip base, we had meetings. Jack London office could not do it for some reason. We had to go to the Coliseum thinking no one was going to be there. And next thing you know, it was season ticket holders taking BP. So we're on the field. People are taking BP. We're like, it's sweet. And all the season ticket holders were coming over, high-fiving us. That was awesome. I forgot about that.
We got to find out from the great Steve Finelli or Vito when that's going to happen. Maybe we do it again.
Yeah, we should be there. I really enjoyed that. Getting out to see our great season ticket holders and watch them have fun. I mean, you pay to go to the games, you watch the games, and then how great is it that now all of a sudden you get to run around on the field with your kids, take BP, enjoy a beautiful day. I mean, as a baseball fan, being on the actual field that the players play on, there really is nothing better.
No, I completely agree. And they had the time of their lives, and I think we would do the same thing if we were able to do it. I saw there's a softball game that we could play in, but I think we're playing. I think we're in Cleveland, so unfortunately, as always, we won't be able to partake because we'll be on the air.
All righty, Melissa Lockard from The Athletic. We are going back to back. I mean, it was a lot of fun having Ed Sprague Jr. on, Director of Player Development, kind of getting the lay of the land of what we have going on in the minor league system, where you don't have a clump of guys all in one spot. They're kind of spread out a little bit, which means they're going to be coming at different times. But there is belief that there are guys. So it was great to have Ed on. I know not everybody got a chance to hear it, watch it, so we will replay it today. Melissa Lockard, who also covers the minor league system, we'll ask her some of the same things, see if we can get two really good minds syncing up here and saying the same thing. So we'll talk to Melissa coming up here at 4:30, and one of the top baseball writers, one of the smartest guys in our business. You see him on MLB Network. You read him on MLB.com. Mike Petriello will be joining us here on A's Cast Live. It is always great to have him.
Juan Soto's hitting well. Let's see what he has to say about him now.
Are you going to go down the Juan Soto route?
Hey, Soto's up to 260 now.
You're going to go down the Juan, yeah.
More hits than walks now.
Juan Soto.
He's back. I mean, yeah, they're playing the really bad Washington Nationals, but Soto's back. Time to give him that 500. Time to reengage in the 500 million talks, San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even. I know we talk about it all the time. It's just like mind blowing. The fact that they've guaranteed $863 million. I mean, when you're getting closer to $1 billion in commitment to salary, you just kind of like, wow, like what? How's this going to work out for the next 10, 11 years? How is this going to work out? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Speaking of crazy, we're going to give you the numbers. The A's are on pace for 130 losses. That would be the most since the Cleveland Spiders in 1899, where they went 20-134. The law, everything comes back to the law of averages. At some point, you have to believe that this team is going to start winning. And what you saw last night, a guy that I'm hoping is not going to be like a lot of his contemporaries right now, blessed with a golden arm. You come out every single game, you're ready to blow, and then next thing you know, you've got arm injuries. Luis Medina looks like, I don't know, but he looks very athletic. You look at his delivery, you look at the way he throws, pretty effortless, very athletic, that he could stay healthy. And if he is brought along right, really could be a frontline starter for the A's for years to come. You're looking to find young guys. You're looking to find young guys who are controllable. But this is a time, and I'm not going to get off this, and we love these guys to death, our coaching staff, but they've got to do one of the best coaching jobs of their career. This is not, hey, man, we got Chapman, we got Olsen, we got Simeon, we got Cannon, we got all these guys. Hey, we just show up, we're winning games, man. That is not what this year is. This year is a year to earn your paycheck as a coach. You've got to get these guys who may not be good enough to play here. You got to make them good enough. You got to coach them up. You've got to get the best out of every single player. That is your job. And I think about Medina. One criticism, if I could have of this young man last night, and I don't have my scorebook on me, but I don't need it. And going through is look, hell on wheels for 4 innings. And then what happens? He gets beat by a couple long balls. And what we are seeing and what we are training, if you're not giving me lip service, if you're really starting to tell me, listen, I understand, I need my starters to go longer, but because it's killing our bullpen. We all agree on that. Here's the deal. You cannot come out first inning and show everybody your best stuff. You've got to come out and establish your fastball, get people out with your fastball, which, oh, by the way, when it's 98, 99, shouldn't you not be afraid to throw your fastball?
Yeah.
Would you be afraid to throw your fastball if you threw 99 with movement?
No.
So first time through the order, hopefully you go 1, 2, 3. So that means first time through the order, that means you would get to the third inning and you've pretty much beaten the front part of the first, the middle, and the back part of the lineup. And let's just say maybe you gave up a walk or a hit. Just, it's a game. Things happen. So you essentially would be getting into the fourth inning, and you really haven't shown your top breaking stuff yet. For him, it's going to be slider, curveball. He's got a changeup. Maybe it is a time you showcase the changeup, even though it isn't your best pitch. And it's a show me pitch. You're showing some things, but I'm not coming at you with the whole kitchen sink. Because what happens when you come at me? I got Dave Stewart in the other room. Maybe I go over and grab him. Dave Stewart, what happens when you, and we're not just talking Dave Stewart from the standpoint of a great pitcher. Remember, Dave Stewart was a pitching coach. When you showcase everything in the first at bat, the whole lineup's watching you. They're watching you. They're seeing your best slider. They're seeing your best curveball. They're seeing your best stuff. So is your best stuff that great when they're now seeing you a third time? And they're seeing it for a third time.
Usually you want to, I mean, like I was looking at it last night, and his slider, he threw a slider 27 times. Okay. It was second best pitch last night. 12 swing. He got 5 swings and misses, 4 strikeouts with it. He had 4 strikeouts in the game, all 4 with the slider. I think for young pitchers.
When were they?
I'd have to go back and look at the.
You hold on 1 second.
Can always bring up the old Baseball Savant page. No, it was on. I found it on MLB Research Tool, but I think the modern model pitchers should use, and we talked about this before. Why don't these guys that throw hard just follow the Justin Verlander model of throwing, 95, 96, 97 to start, and then you're throwing 99 in the 7th and 8th. I know we don't have pitchers go into the 7th or 8th inning anymore, but he's the model to follow. I mean, to me, I think he's the model to follow.
You call me Old Space Mountain. You got to go to Baseball Savant. You got to go to all these fancy websites to hopefully find it. Well, if you just watch the game every night and keep score, you can just go to your scorebook that we call the Bible.
I haven't kept score since I coached baseball.
Yeah, well, when you keep score every night, I can just look and tell you. Well, he got Kelnick strike 3 in the second inning. He got Raleigh and Hernandez. He got them swinging in the third inning. He got France swinging in the third. Look where all these strikeouts are. Where are all these strikeouts? Baseball Savant doesn't tell you that?
No. It just tells you what the pitches were.
Yeah, they just that's
velocity.
Kind of the problem with data is it doesn't necessarily tell you all the story. It tells you a good chunk of the story. It doesn't tell you all the story. So my story is telling you that here he is, and he's coming out guns a-blazing, striking everybody out. He had 4 strikeouts in the game. All 4 strikeouts were early. So all of a sudden, he gets through the first 4 innings, as I talk about, unscathed. But what happens in the 5th inning? What's happening in the 5th inning?
Gives up a double.
But what's happening?
Well, they've already seen everything. They've seen his fastball and they've seen his
And
breaking.
where are we through the lineup?
It's going to the 3rd time through.
3rd time through. So this is where they have their data against pitchers, these front offices, where they're right. 3rd time through, pitchers start to struggle. Well, you know what? Maybe we could turn that a little bit on front offices and coaching staffs, is that you're going to use that data at me. Well, let me come back with how I started this show. I'm going to come back at you. When you've trained your pitchers to pitch like closers or relievers, and you train them to come out and come out and blitzkrieg everybody, strike everybody out. I want your best stuff from the first pitch till we pull you. Your best stuff till the end. Well, what happens is everybody's seen it. These are the best hitters in the world, which means their hand-eye coordination is some of the best in the world. Their vision is some of the best in the world. And in between their ears, they're really smart dudes. And they're sitting there and they're watching you. Okay? You think everybody's just sitting around, drinking coffee, eating sunflower seeds. That's not what they're doing. They're watching you. They're watching because this is their business. And they're watching you, and they're watching to see how you pitch. And what are they seeing? Oh, look at that slider. pretty good slider. He's throwing a lot of that slider. And all of a sudden, what's the pitch that's going yard once they get the third time through the order?
Slider.
So there's my point. You showed them everything you got right out of the gate. You showed them everything. Now, if you go to the movies and they tell you what the entire plot and the ending and everything is in the first 15 minutes, do you then want to stick around for the next hour and 45 minutes of that movie?
Most likely not. No. I'll just go with no.
No. I mean, it'd be like going to see the movie Titanic and the boat sinks in the first 10 minutes.
Yes. Or if you just, well, there could be people that had no idea the Titanic actually sank, or if it was a real thing. Those are the suckers. But yes.
Iceberg ahead, bang, boat hits the iceberg and it goes to the bottom of the ocean. Sank pretty quick.
You're telling me by the way, there's a couple that fell in love on the actual Titanic and this all happened?
There had to be, there's a band and oh my God, look at all the costumes. And I mean, Titanic won Oscars for everything, music, costumes, everything. I mean, Titanic won all the Oscars. Well, if the boat hits the iceberg 10 minutes into the movie and the boat's at the bottom of the ocean, what are we talking about for the next 2 hours?
At least 2 hours.
Well, let me tell you, Luis Medina last night went out and he showed you everything. It was the movie, the beginning, the middle, and the end. He showed you all in your first at-bat. You saw everything. So what happens? So he's in control. He's mowing through the Mariners, and then all of a sudden we get the fifth inning and 2 outs again. So it's only the second Hernandez and Wong. It's just their second at bats. They get out. Murphy hits the double. We're okay. But now here come Crawford and France. 2 outs in the fifth. Third time they're seeing Luis Medina. And they saw everything right out of the gate. They've seen it in their 2 at bats. They go back-to-back yaks. I still think a terrific outing for Luis Medina.
The last 3 have been great.
It's what I want to see. Trust me. Right now, I'm having a hard time. I can just show you my scorebook. All the stupid stuff I do every night. So I just want you to know that there is something that goes into the postgame show when I'm ranting and raving. And I guess last night I had a big cup of coffee before I went on.
I heard. Yeah, I heard.
A
cup and a half, right? So I heard you start Greg and slow.
I forgot to break after I let Ken Korak go, and I think I went on for like a half hour. I was just rambling. I got angry.
You want full Greg Papa stream of consciousness there. Just kept going.
I did
a break.
You know, that's a good point. I did a full-on Greg Papa where all of a sudden you like been talking for like 20 minutes. You realize, what the hell am I talking about, and where are we in this show? Got people to call in.
Yeah, I've listened.
Which I didn't think after a 3-2 loss we were going to get anybody to call in. I had all kinds of Ed Sprague to play, and we didn't get through any of it. But the point is, Medina, for me, he gets called up. You see an electric arm, great. Then you send him down. Ugh. You call him back up. You see an electric arm. Well, keep him here. Let's get him through the process of let's let him learn. Let's let him learn here at the big league level what to do in between starts, how to take care of your body, how to sleep, how to eat, how to work out, how to look at video, how to journal, how to do all the different things mentally and physically you need to do to be prepared before every start. Let's do it. And I think what you're going to see from Medina is a guy that we're going to next year at spring training. I've got a feeling that Medina is going to be somebody we're going to be saying, you know what? This is a kid that we watched grow last year, because we still got June, July, August, September. Think about all those months we have left in baseball and all the games we have to train people and let people learn how to do it at this level.
Yeah, and I think he's a good example because of what you saw with the upside, with the velocity. He went back-to-back quality starts, 6 innings, 5 and a third yesterday. I think that he's the only thing that's biting him really is the long ball. He's giving up 7 home runs, but who cares? He's still pitching deep in the games. By today's standards, he's pitching deep in the games. And I mean, I looked it up. First time through the order, first plate appearance through the order or through the game, first plate appearance for hitters, they're hitting 206. Second time through, 212. Pretty good. Third time, 318. So
You've shown everything.
The OPS.
And who did you mention before I went and got the book?
Old Space Mountain, Justin Verlander.
Old Space Mountain. Verlander was a master at this. And as you
Don't you be upset because they tore Old Space Mountain down. Don't be upset.
My retort.
Oldest ride, longest line. Woo!
Woo! All right. You're right. And that's something that in our next conversation, it may just be like Scott Emerson. Why are we not teaching guys to be Verlander? Why? I mean, we've seen it plenty of times. We've seen it in playoff games. We've seen it in regular season games. Verlander comes out, challenges, establishes his fastball, but he's not showing you his best fastball. He's not showing you his best stuff. And a lot of that has to come with confidence. He still believes, I mean, you can look at the data. Verlander is doing nothing that Luis Medina can't do. He can throw just as hard as Verlander. Verlander has now gone to a slider. Verlander used to be a curveball changeup guy. Verlander went to a slider. But Verlander would come out. And remember the game the A's actually beat Verlander at home, but Verlander had a no-hitter going to like the 7th or something like that with the Astros. Verlander is still going to go out there and say, you know what, I'm going to come out at 94, 95, and I'm just going to throw fastballs at you. He gets through the order the first time. And then all of a sudden, next time through, who knows what you're going to see out of Verlander? And it really is how is he feeling. It could be the nasty slider. Verlander has the big curveball he can go to. Verlander has the changeup. Verlander has a lot of different weapons, but you're not seeing those weapons until later on. That's the mind game. Because all of a sudden, when I'm a hitter and I'm going up against Verlander third or fourth time, hell, I don't know what he's throwing me.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, he's coming at me a fastball. But after that, it's a mind game. You don't know what I'm going to throw. And you know what pitch that helps more than any other pitch later on?
Fastball.
Because he got you out fastball first at bat. So you're there and you're thinking, fastball, and you're gearing up. And then your second, third, now you're seeing slider, change. You're seeing all this other stuff. And then by the fourth at bat, now you're like, hell, I have no idea what he's going to throw me. I mean, it could be any count. I've seen slider, and then before you know it, now Verlander comes at you, and you have not seen this all day. Think about this. Verlander came at you 94, 95, your first at-bat. I want you all to think as a hitter. Your first at-bat, you saw 94, 95. It's Verlander. He's a super tall guy. Was he 6'5"?
Yeah.
And throwing from up top, he's boring down on you 94, 95, which probably to a hitter looks more like 98. Then in your next at-bat, now you're getting to see the nasty slider. Now you're getting to see the curveball. You're seeing other pitches, right? So let's say it's the third or fourth at-bat, crucial time in the game. You've now kind of seen all this kind of stuff, and then Verlander pulls out 100. You haven't seen 100. Where the hell did that come from?
He's the best at it.
You were throwing 94, 95. You're throwing sliders. You threw me a big breaking curveball. I think I've seen everything. And all of a sudden, he humps up and whack, 100 miles an hour at you. And you watch these guys. You watch the ball. The ball, as they're going in, and the ball's hitting the catcher's glove, and you're so far behind, you're like, holy S-bomb. What the hell was that? Think about that. He lures you in. He plays a game with you. You're not seeing 100 in the first inning. He's saving that for the 7th inning. He saves it. So I'm not asking Medina to do Verlander 7 innings, but what if when he faced Crawford and France in the 5th, if now they were seeing 99, what if he went at them at 95? What if DeGrom pitched like that? And I don't know. I think DeGrom still gets hurt. It's just his body. Some guys it just is what it is. And unfortunately for DeGrom, I think he would be hurt no matter what. He's just had so many injuries. But what if someone lives? 95 is still hard with movement. Location, location, location. I talk about that box all the time. You see on television now, we got the box. If you don't live directly in the middle of that box, what happens if you live on the outer edge, throw strikes, you get through the order the first time? What if Medina started pumping 99 now at Crawford in France with the slider? How different would that be?
Yeah, and I went back and looked just to give the context of Verlander. Verlander first plate appearance through the order in his career. This isn't just his career, 213. Okay, pretty good. Second time through, 216. Really good. Third time through, 245.
So there's not that dramatic 360.
No.
You see
fourth time, 259.
Yeah, you see that, and that once again, and that once again is what we're talking about with variety, with great stuff. He gives you a bunch of different stuff. And I guarantee you, if we sat down with Justin Verlander and we had like an hour and just, hey, we're going to shoot the bull with him, he would tell you, hey, what I gave, and he's not in our division anymore, but what I gave the A's the first time around when I faced him, and maybe I face him again in, 2 months, I'm now going to be different again. You're just not going to see the same guy. You're not going to see the same patterns. I'm going to play the mind games with you. Well, what mind game is Luis Medina playing right now? He's not. He's getting up there and he's throwing as hard as he can. And he's trying to strike everybody out. And I get it, but that's where Scott Emerson and the crew, they got to teach him how to pitch. And you don't showcase everything you got first time through the order, because by the time you get to the third time, they've now seen it all. And good hitters will make what we call in sports adjustments.
Yeah, as I mentioned, second time through the order for Medina, 212. Third time through, 318. That's a drastic jump from the 216 from Verlander. And I know we're comparing a Cy Young and, dare I say, future Hall of Famer.
No,
from his 218 to what I say was 218 to 216 to 245, where Medina goes from 216 to 318. That's a drastic jump.
Is our sport the only sport that constantly has to call somebody a future Hall of Famer?
Heard Mike Trout's a future Hall of Famer this morning.
Does any other sport do that?
Do we call Patrick Mahomes a future Hall of Famer? Actually, yeah. Steph Curry.
All the time, though?
No.
I mean, do we need to look at Steph Curry and go, future Hall of Famer?
LeBron James, future Warrior, future Hall of Famer?
I mean, LeBron James, future Hall of Famer. Does anybody even say that? Do I even have to say that?
They will say, they are saying future Warrior.
How many times do you think Miguel Cabrera has been called a future Hall of Famer the last 3 years?
All the time.
Well over 1,000
Because there's no other superlatives you can throw at him.
Well over 1,000 times easily. Future Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer. Why can't we? Why do we have to always say that?
What are we going to call him? The slick hitting first baseman? He's not that anymore.
Oh, shots fired on the future Hall of Famer.
I tell the truth.
You sure Trout's going to make the Hall of Fame?
I think his ward's
Are
there.
you sure?
He just passed Griffey. I think he's going to be there.
Yeah, there's a debate. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll throw Melissa. DiMaggio, the great DiMaggio, Griffey, and Trout.
Legendary ace coach, mind you, Joe DiMaggio.
Oh, my God. I saw one of the greatest pictures I've ever seen. It was 1968. I don't know where. It was Joe DiMaggio in a white A's. I don't even know what the material would be, but it was a white A's jacket, and it was Rick Monday in a green A's top.
First ever draft pick.
It was old. You can't get any more old school than that. We're talking with Melissa Lockard next, right here on A's Cast Live. This is Chris Townsend. There are two things that are a must for me: comfort and style. Whether I'm playing golf, going to dinner, I've got to have the right feel. That's why I've partnered with Linksole, and you're going to love Linksole. They have just released their new spring line, new fabrics for their polos, lightweight and perfect for technical performance. Linksole also has new styles for their layers and hoodies with cool prints and seasonal colors. You know what they say in the big leagues: look good, play good. Go to linksole.com. That's linksole.com.
Chevron with Techron has unbeatable engine cleaning power, and it gives you unbeatable mileage for all kinds of unbeatable destinations, like time in the sun at the beach, or time in the sun riding roller coasters, or a day in the sun hiking mountains. Well, probably just one mountain would be enough for a day, but hiking a mountain is still an unbeatable choice for how to spend time. Download the Chevron app now to get unbeatable mileage at locations near you.
This is Chris Townsend, and if you're looking for a great place to eat and watch games, go see my friends at the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. The Chicken Pie Shop is one of the hottest restaurants in Walnut Creek. You're not going to find a better menu, and come try their world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 86 years. Spacious indoor and outdoor dining, perfect for your next private party or corporate event. Don't forget free parking. For more information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
If you're looking for a new mattress, Nest Bedding has you covered. Sleep on the same mattress Hall of Famer Ricky Henderson sleeps on. Nest Bedding is the #1 brand of online mattresses and the Bay Area's favorite mattress store. Take home the Easy Breather pillow. The New York Times calls it their #1 pick. You can navigate their easy-to-use website, nestbedding.com. That's nestbedding.com. Green and Gold fans, use the coupon code Oakland and you get 10% off your entire order. Nest Bedding, love where you sleep.
Thanks to the Xfinity 10G network, my little brother's friends won't leave our house. When I was their age, internet with basically no interruptions was a pipe dream.
You sound like my grandpa.
Now through April 23rd, new customers can get 200 megabit Xfinity internet during our limited time Xfinity 10G network launch celebration for just $25 a month for 2 years. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
It's Kids Cheer Free all summer long. Bring your kids ages 14 and younger to the ballpark on Sunday home games for free. After the game, race around the bases with Stomper on the same field that your favorite A's players do. Get your tickets now at athletics.com/kidsfree.
Hey, Billy, this deck is great for getting everyone together. Thanks. We're really enjoying the outdoor space, especially on a day like today. What's the material? Humboldt Redwood from Ashby Lumber. They gave us a great deal, provided us with a quick quote, and we couldn't be happier. We even found a great contractor through their online contractor directory.
Don't miss a day outdoors. Visit Ashby Lumber in Berkeley or Concord to see our stock of naturally strong, naturally beautiful Humboldt Redwood. Find out more at ashbylumber.com for all your building needs. Ashby Lumber.
Innovation is at the core of Cal State East Bay, like at our Green Biome Institute, where faculty and students preserve genetic information from California's endangered plants, or how we open doors for local entrepreneurs at our Small Business Development Center. From educators to nurses to STEM professionals, Cal State East Bay has real impact throughout the region's neighborhoods, boardrooms, and the entire economy. Be part of the innovation. Connect with Cal State East Bay at csueastbay.edu/impact.
Bring the whole family out to the ballpark for this Friday night showdown on May 26th. Come see your A's take on the Houston Astros, then head down to the field to see the best fireworks in the Bay Area. So get ready to enjoy a one-of-a-kind, pop-through-the-decades post-game fireworks show.
Throws and it's swung and hit to right field, deep in the corner, and that's going to be gone, and it's back to back to back.
Grab your seats today at athletics.com/fireworks. That's athletics.com/fireworks.
Unlock offers and receive exclusive in-game features by downloading the MLB Ballpark app for iPhone and Android today. Plus, get the latest information on game times, schedules, and more.
Streaming from the town, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
Melissa Lockard from The Athletic joins us here on A's Cast Live. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Now, you have just forwarded us a picture of the great Joe DiMaggio in a white jacket with a group, and that group it does have Rick Monday in it. But I saw this picture that was just Joe D and Rick Monday.
Okay.
And we're talking, but those type, I wish we could sell that merch. If we could be like, this is the style of jacket Joe DiMaggio wore. I don't care if it's wedding gown, white, whatever color you want to call it, Fort Knox gold. I'm wearing it and I'm buying it.
Oh yeah. Well, and Reggie is in that. I don't know if you noticed, Reggie Jackson's one of the guys that's listening to Joe. So he's got the hat off and the whole thing. No, can you imagine being a young hitter and Joe DiMaggio is the one that's teaching you everything? You can see why they won 3 straight World Series, not that long after that.
Yeah. So for fans to see what she just sent over, how cool is that? Like
it's like a Rockwell painting, right?
Yeah. So we've talked to Joe Rudy about it a lot. Like, it's hard to believe being a young athletic, and I guess some of our young fans won't understand, but Joe DiMaggio is an American sports icon. I mean, he's talked about in music, in movies, and I mean, Joe DiMaggio, like later on for me, he was Mr. Coffee. But for that generation, not only was he a sports star, but he was like an American icon. And then all of a sudden, Joe DiMaggio is a coach of yours for the A's. That was wild for the players back in those days.
Oh, sure. And I mean, and you're talking about franchise just moving to Oakland, all those young players, and within years, they're the best team, arguably one of the best collections of players in the history of the game, and this was the seeds of that, is the greatest hitter maybe of all time, greatest right-handed hitter perhaps, teaching them the wares. So, I mean, I think that's pretty great. Bay Area baseball history in general, I think is, something that people don't always appreciate. But the fact you can go to San Francisco and see Joe DiMaggio's apartment, that there was his restaurant all those years in Washington Square Park. And, that's just a small part of how much the game has been impacted by this area that I think people don't always remember and appreciate.
All righty. Get me excited about some young guys. I need something to sell. I need something.
Yeah, don't we all? I think it's tough. I mean, I'm always very optimistic, and, I can kind of try to spin anything. I think there's a really nice collection of position players coming through the system. I think, especially if you look at that AA Midland roster, there's a lot of guys that they were very high on coming into this season. They were having really nice seasons and, could be pushing their way to AAA soon. There's a couple of guys that we've talked about quite a bit on that AAA Las Vegas roster as well, who are playing well. The thing I kind of come back to, though, is trying to puzzle out, like, how does that whole group play together? It does seem to me like there's a lot of redundancy at each position and not a lot of easy ways to look at it and say, okay, I can see where all these guys spread out all over a lineup that's not going to steal each other's playing time. I mean, you look at Jordan Diaz is a good example, right? Here's a kid who I think we saw in flashes what he could do potentially as a hitter. I think he's made some pretty significant improvements fielding at second base. But his other position is third base. And when you look at the players that are coming up behind him, second base and third base are where a lot of those really good players are playing. And you don't want to waste a bat like Jordan Diaz. But where is he going to fit in with the Zach Gelofs, with the Brett Harrises, and some of these other guys that are coming up? So that's where I worry about kind of where the future part of it is. There is a lot of talent, and you can always make the argument that talent can be used to trade to fill the holes that are created by having a lot of those guys at the same positions. But it's one thing that I've noticed that sort of I haven't been able to puzzle out in my mind where all those guys can play together.
Do you want me to tell you how to fix that?
Go, yeah.
I'm going to tell you how to fix it, because we're looking at, we're starting to get ready for the draft, and we're looking at where the A's potentially could be drafting. Don't worry. They all have the A's drafting a catcher. So we'll fix it all with drafting more catchers.
I know. I saw those. Yeah. I mean, and Kyle Teal's a heck of a player, and I think he's going to be an absolute amazing pro. But when you've spent as much draft capital as you have on the catching position, not to mention who you've traded away to get catching in the last couple of years, that seems like an odd fit. I mean, look, like they got totally messed over in that draft lottery. They could not possibly have gone worse for them than it did in terms of falling from 2 to 6. And the top 5 picks, I think, are pretty well established as these are the 5 top players in this draft. And after that, there are good players, a lot of good players, but it's not nearly as clear cut. And of course, it happens to come right at 6. So, I think pitching is where they really need help, but whether it makes sense to take a pitcher at 6 when the top 2 pitchers are probably going to be gone, and then the gap after that is a little higher. I'm not sure. I think a position player might make more sense there, but it is not going to fix a hole that they have in the system. That's for sure.
Is catcher the most valuable and important position in like the history of mankind, like bigger than quarterback, bigger than goalie, bigger than president of the United States? Is it catcher? Is just this ultimate, man, you can't have enough of these guys?
Well, I learned the game of baseball from Ray Fosse, so I will say yes.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I love Ray Fosse, but you know what? I can find Carlos Perez, who's 32 years old, hadn't played since 2018. I can find catchers like, I mean, this whole fascination with drafting catchers, I think they're overrated. I'm a former pitcher. I think they just sit there and look stupid. I'll throw what I want to throw and unless you don't get me started. But if you think we should draft 8,000 catchers, good luck to you.
No, I mean, I do think that the catching position is pretty well taken care of for now. That would not be my priority. If you are gonna go for best player available, it may very well be that that Kyle is going to be at 6, the best player available, and then you got to make a decision. But between Shea and Tyler and Daniel Susek having a nice season so far in Lansing, and they should be able to cover the catching position over the next few years.
You make a good point that all of a sudden you start looking around and all of your best players all play the same position. And and you're seeing it at different levels too. And, that's what happens when you start drafting and trading for the same position. I know it's like shortstops are kind of like tight ends in football. You feel like, well, if they don't make it at that position, you can, like a tight end in football, you can turn him into a defensive lineman, into a linebacker, into an offensive lineman. They're a big receiver. That's why Bill Parcells always drafted tight ends, because they're very versatile. Same thing with shortstops. They're usually the best athletes. So they can play third, they can play center, they can play second, they can morph into a lot of different things. But, and for me, my whole thing with Jordan Diaz is I don't think we got better long-term as an organization sending him back down to AAA.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that either. Yeah, I don't, I mean, look, I think they're in a terrible position regardless, right? Like, let's not sugarcoat. They're 10-40. Nothing has worked.
Yeah.
The pieces of the puzzle have been there's circles and squares, and none of them are matching together. And it's really a mess. And part of the problem is that where they really need to be looking at young players, they signed a couple of guys to 2-year deals and another guy to a 1-year deal. And I mean, it's like at some point maybe you got to cut bait with those guys and try to kind of bring up some of these others, because I do think Jordan's only going to get better playing every day, and he's only going to take away at bats from other guys that you want playing at AAA if he's in AAA. So it hurts on multiple levels. It doesn't just hurt Jordan's development, but it also hurts, Brett Harris doesn't come up to AAA, or, you've got guys like if Zach Geloff's going to lose at bats at second base, these are people you want playing as much as you can. And yes, you can say, oh, there's DH and there's other things, but ultimately you want to have those guys playing as much as possible. And I sort of look back to that Chris Carter era when they just couldn't figure out where to put him. And
Michael Taylor and Chris Carter were going to save all of our problems.
Sure, they were. And, and again, like Chris eventually, he got an opportunity. He stuck for a while and he made a couple of good years out of it, right? Like the guy led the National League in home runs one season. So you saw what he could do, but there were some wasted years there because there was square pegs and round holes, and there were Jason Giambis and Nomar Garcia Parras and Mike Piazzas ahead of him in DH. And I think sometimes you just have to say, you know what, those guys aren't working. We gave them money, but the money's already spent. Let's try to develop the people that are going to make us better. And I felt like they did do that in 2017, and leading towards what became that really good core of players. They finally did clear the path for Matt Olson to get up there, and Ryan Healy up there, and Matt Chapman eventually, and everything. And I think we aren't doing any good in trying to recycle, because they're not winning anyway. Like if they were kind of like 5 games within 500, you could kind of make an argument. Okay, fine. But when you're about to set a record for the most losses in the season, there's just no reason to waste it on guys that are not going to help you get to that next step.
I agree 100%. And when all of a sudden Trevor May comes back, Seth Brown comes back, and I get it, but all of a sudden you got older. You brought in more 30-plus-year-old guys, and it's like you're just getting older in a year where you need to get younger and you need to rebuild. Brett Harris, we just had Ed Sprague Jr. on yesterday. He raved about Brett Harris. Tell us why we're all raving about Brett Harris.
I mean, he's just a really good ball player, right? Like, I mean, he's a dude who, I don't know that he does any one thing that you kind of are like, wow, there's no Matt Chapman 100 miles an hour across the diamond type throws, but he's a really good defender. He's got incredible range on pop-ups. I will say that's probably, I don't know if that's like a plus skill that you talk about with third baseman much, but as long as they play at the Coliseum, that is a very plus skill.
I mean, it kind of matters.
Yeah, I mean, they made a bobblehead doll of, third baseman going over a tarp, right? Like it does matter for whatever days we have left, at the stadium. So, but he's very hard nosed, and then offensively he doesn't swing and miss a ton, which is great. And he walks a decent amount. He hits for high average. He's got power, and he's got a really solid, consistent approach. And I think that's the kind of thing that, like, when you're looking at a player, who can make that jump, he's the kind of guy that has that mentality that you can see the jumps not being too big for him because he keeps that line drive up the middle approach. Doesn't try to change it depending on, where he's playing or who he's up against. And those are the kind of guys that tend to max out their potential, I think. So, I think he's somebody who, could be a major league third baseman for 10 years. And you come to the end of the career and think, wow, that was just a really solid major league player. And I think that's the kind of guy that he is.
A guy like that was Sal Bando.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a whole history. I wrote about it, that it's like third base should be enshrined as like the Oakland A's position, and I don't know that he's going to be the top of that list, but he's going to be, I think, a good chance to be on that list, which I think is pretty impressive.
Well, that's it. I mean, having a good, solid third baseman, you got to be finding guys all over the place. Now, you mentioned, and I know a lot of A's fans have brought this up, so I just want to address this, where you say, well, as long as we're playing at the Coliseum, and I know there's a lot of stuff and drama and going on, and everybody's following Twitter, and there's all these different reports, and one news source is saying one thing, and 24 hours later, they're saying something completely different. So we really don't know. I can tell you what I do know. We will be playing at the Coliseum next year. They have already made the flight patterns and all the things that they do to get the schedules and do the schedules and all that. We have one more year lease here. The price is for sure right. And if I go back to my Raider days, Melissa, when everybody talked about, Oakland and the Raiders and Alameda County, look how many more years the Raiders stayed there when there was a delay on Allegiant Stadium. So no matter what, I still think we have quite a few years left here in Oakland.
Okay. I'll hold you to that, Chris.
And playing at the Coliseum.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
I can guarantee you next year we're here.
Okay.
They're not changing. Major League Baseball is not allowing you to change. Once the schedule is set, you're not changing.
I mean, how awful would that be for, this is like such a small part of a much larger story, but I was thinking about this the other day. Like, the A's play in Vegas for AAA. If they aren't at the Coliseum, that's where they'll have to play their major league games until whenever this stadium is built on the Strip. Can you imagine getting called up for your big league debut and walking 2 lockers over to the big league debut is in the same place you're playing AAA? Like, just the robbing of that moment for a player. I don't know. The whole thing is just gross to me.
Can you imagine the numbers guys will put up?
Yeah. Well, we can imagine the pitching though.
Yeah. Just what. Pitching bad, or all of a sudden you're like, this guy's got 65 jacks.
Yeah.
But hey, it's the A's have played in Vegas before. Ed Sprague hit his first home run.
That triple play for Ernie Young, that was still a great moment.
Yeah, pretty crazy. When do you think? And I know it's tough, but when do you think? We talk about Soderstrom, we talk about Geloff, you're talking about Harris. When do we think we'll see him?
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball. And, so many times call-ups are injury related, right? So like Nick Allen didn't get a chance to come back until really, it looked like Diaz was hurt. And then, they could have an opportunity. But that aside, I can't think this goes on well past the All-Star break without the idea that we need to kind of turn a page here and make some major moves. So, I would think sometime in August, you would start to see Tyler and Zach. By then, those guys have had, a full season of AAA really, because they got some time last year as well. And assuming they're still playing well and they're healthy, I don't see why you wouldn't see those guys. I would think, you could see Jordan Diaz back up again as well. I'd like them to see, Cody Thomas is having a really nice season again. And he was a guy that was so close to being on the big league roster before that Achilles thing. And now he's fully healthy. It'd be good to see him again. So, I think there's got to be a turning the page moment where you start to see all of them come, and the reluctance to get rid of the guys they've paid money to already, I get it. And it's early-ish enough in the season, but you would have to think at least by, maybe a little bit after the All-Star break, you'd start to see, historically right after the draft had been where big moves have made, and now they've pushed the draft all the way to July. So maybe let's just see after the draft,
Well, how about this? The checkpoints in baseball, Memorial Day is one of the checkpoints. Well, one of the reasons why Memorial Day was such a great checkpoint was because baseball didn't start till like the second week of April.
Right.
We now start in March. So the amount of games Memorial Day is what, the 29th? By the time we get to the 29th, we're well over 50 games played. So if your checkpoints after 50 games, and then, I'm thinking about what you're saying, the All-Star break, and people have said, well, what about the trading deadline? I'm like, oh my God, that's another 2 months. We're 2 months away from the trade. I'll lose my mind by that if we have not. That's why I'm like, I need something. I need some Soderstrom, some Geloff, some Harris, some whoever. I need something different, because I can't imagine what we see right now, still what we're rolling out there, and it's like mid-July.
Yeah. No, I'd do it tomorrow if I were in charge, but no one's putting me in charge of anything. So
I'll put you in charge. I agree with you.
No, and then I think you also want to look at, some of those outfielders in Midland, and, how like a Denzel Clark and a Lawrence Butler, how quickly they might be able to help you out. And I think, that's not too far down the road either. I think Ramon Laureano has played well enough in parts that I think he's probably got some trade value that, they could, holding on to him until the point that they could trade him would make sense. But, and Seth Brown, I think there's as much as that pains me as a big Seth Brown fan to think that they would trade him away. But I think, those are guys that could play themselves into being valuable. And I think, seeing what Brent Rooker can continue to do, I think is worthwhile doing, and JJ Bleday as well. But, you start to look at Lawrence Butler, and you look at Denzel Clark, and you think about maybe Cody Thomas, and, you start to want to see, how does that line up as well? And to see some of that coming through in the next few months would be helpful, I think, to the organization as well.
Well, and then, if you're going to send Kyle Muller down, another thing I didn't agree with, but if you're going to send him down, I'm just trying to think, like, who's down there? I mean, Cody tried to sell me on Hogan Harris. We saw how that went, which still doesn't mean I don't want to see him up here and give him an opportunity. Where do you go? I mean, you start looking around, like Rosinski, it's not working. Fuji not working. You're starting to look at, Mason Miller. Obviously, he's going to be a health problem. Who's going to come up and pitch?
Yeah, well, that is why all of this has fallen apart, really. The pitching is where it starts and where it ends. And it's always been the case with this organization. And, up to this point, they've always been able to roll out at least a somewhat decent pitching staff. But this one, it makes that 1996 pitching staff look like it was, fairly competent, which is hard to do. And I think it is tough because, you can look at Hogan Harris, and over the last month, he's actually pitched quite well. He's throwing strikes, which I think is the biggest indicator, right? Like if when he came up, he wasn't really throwing strikes yet, and that just snowballed on him in that one appearance. But I also think he's probably a reliever anyway, and that's part of the other thing I guess that has been hard for me to understand is that the bullpen right now, there's a lot of guys that are still trying to develop as starters that probably could come up and be somewhat effective relievers, like a Hogan Harris. I think, some of these, even, I don't even know, Muller, maybe it would have been helpful to try him in the bullpen for a little bit and just see what could work, right, in shorter spurts. And instead, we're kind of just seeing the same guys out there. And, they need good innings. And I don't know where it doesn't have to come from the rotation, all of it, it needs to come somewhere. And so the idea of trying to get these guys in certain roles, if you've got a quality arm at this point and they can throw strikes, put him in the bullpen, and then we'll see what happens, because the innings need to get stretched out with effective arms. And there's a couple of guys that have come up that look like they could be, interesting, and keep running those guys out there. And I'm glad that Garrett Acton's up there. And I think, that Richard Lovelady's had some good outings and things, so stretching those along, but you're not going to get anywhere, even if the rotation gets better, if the bullpen keeps blowing it in the 6th and 7th innings, right? So finding any quality arms and getting them to the big leagues, even if you want them to be a starter eventually, getting them some big league experience as a reliever at this point would probably help. And I think that is something that that they would need to look to. I don't have an easy answer as to who those arms are. Right now they're not overly abundant. I think Shohei Tomioka in Midland is pitched really well, and I think it might be interesting to see what he could do. He's already 27, so it's not like there's a reason to wait on him. I almost think skipping AAA for some of these pitchers might not be a bad idea, because there's not a lot you can get from data, and looking at what they're doing in Vegas. So, looking at that Midland pitching staff, Ryan Cusick is he's still walking too many guys, but he's not giving up nearly as many hits. He's got a good ERA. A lot of people have projected him as a reliever anyway. Like, try him out, at this point. That's kind of what the Rays do. They bring up whatever quality arm they have, and they get as many innings in whatever role they can out of them, and they stretch it out over a 162 game season, and it, the patchwork works. And at this point, I think the patchwork might need to kind of work. That's the way they're going to have to get this done. So, because you can't. It's got to be demoralizing. Even when you have a decent start, there's just no chance of finishing it if you're out of it in the 7th inning.
Well, I can tell you one thing I do know. You can get a good prime rib dinner over at the Red Rock Casino across the street from the ballpark. That's one good thing a pitcher can do. Other than that, there's nothing good. Hey, great stuff as always. We love The Athletic. We love everything that you guys do. Thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Melissa Lockard from The Athletic, Mike Petriello from MLB.com next, right here on A's Cast Live.
With more sunshine returning, it's time to get outside and make the most of what Cinnabar Hills Golf Club has to offer, like 27 championship caliber holes tucked in the beautiful hills of San Jose. And take advantage of their amazing Bay Area views for your next special event. It's all for you at Cinnabar Hills Golf Club, an award-winning venue designed to peacefully take you away from the bustle of Silicon Valley. Go to CinnabarHills.com. That's CinnabarHills.com.
This is Chris Townsend. There are two things that are a must for me: comfort and style. Whether I'm playing golf, going to dinner, I've got to have the right feel. That's why I've partnered with Linksole, and you're going to love Linksole. They have just released their new spring line, new fabrics for their polos, lightweight and perfect for technical performance. Linksole also has new styles for their layers and hoodies with cool prints and seasonal colors. You know what they say in the big leagues: look good, play good. Go to Linksole.com. That's Linksole.com.
If you're looking for a great place to eat and watch games, go see our friends at the Chicken Pie Shop of Walnut Creek. The Chicken Pie Shop is one of the hottest restaurants in Walnut Creek. You're not going to find a better menu, and come try the world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 86 years. Spacious indoor and outdoor dining, perfect for your next private party or corporate event. Don't forget free parking. For more information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
Chevron with Techron has unbeatable engine cleaning power, and it gives you unbeatable mileage for all kinds of unbeatable destinations, like time in the sun at the beach, or time in the sun riding roller coasters, or a day in the sun hiking mountains. Well, probably just one mountain would be enough for a day, but hiking a mountain is still an unbeatable choice for how to spend time. Download the Chevron app now to get unbeatable mileage at locations near you.
And the underdogs, Oakland Athletics, win their first championship since they were in Philadelphia in 1930.
Hi, I'm Raleigh Fingers, Hall of Famer, three-time World Series champion with the Oakland A's and World Series MVP. Winning takes teamwork, skill, and heart. So when you need an ace for a personal injury lawyer that will win you the game, go with the winning team. Call Venardi Zerata at 833-VZ-FOR-ME or go to vzlawfirm.com. Venardi Serrata, the official injury law firm of the Oakland A's.
Like sports, business is about winning. Championship decisions are business decisions based on what it takes to help your company win. And that's why there's UBO Business Services, specializing in helping you win every day by streamlining workflows, managing documents, and providing the best-in-class office technology. Make your championship decision with UBO Business Services. Visit them at ubeo.com. That's ubeo.com.
Ace fans need Friday night plans? Well, we got you covered. Get 4 tickets and parking for any Friday night game starting at just $49 with the Friday 4-pack presented by Chevrolet. Save big and enjoy great matchups, post-game fireworks and drone shows, giveaways, and more this 2023 season.
He drills one to right, way back, and no doubt. And that quickly, the A's have taken the lead. Second deck.
Friday night tickets are available at athletics.com/value. That's athletics.com/value.
If you're looking for the latest green and gold gear for the 2023 season, then look no further than athletics.com/shop for your officially licensed gear. That's athletics.com/shop.
Innovation. It's at the core of Cal State East Bay, like at our Green Biome Institute, where faculty and students preserve genetic information from California's endangered plants, or how we open doors for local entrepreneurs at our Small Business Development Center. From educators to nurses to STEM professionals, Cal State East Bay has real impact throughout the region's neighborhoods, boardrooms, and the entire economy. Be part of the innovation. Connect with Cal State East Bay at csueastbay.edu/impact.
Streaming from the East Bay, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
Actually, we're in San Francisco today, NBC Sports California, as I'll be hosting A's pre- and post-game live with the great Dave Stewart in just a little bit. But before we do all of that and get you ready for A's and the Mariners, Mike Petriello from MLB.com. Of course, you see him all over the place, including MLB Network, joins us. How are you?
Hey, Chris, I'm great. Good to see you again.
Everything good in your world? You've been somebody told me, I think Cody said you went on vacation.
I took the kids to Disney. I don't know if I'd call it a vacation, but it was definitely time off of work.
To Disney or Disney World?
Florida, Disney World, yeah.
Oh, wow. How was that?
It was actually pretty great. The Star Wars stuff was great. The 4-year-old didn't ruin the entire trip. It was would recommend doing it exactly once in a lifetime.
Well, good for you getting some a family time. The last time we were talking to you, you're working on I wouldn't say exactly new, but obviously our world has changed with pitch timer, bigger bags. Let's just say this, a lot is not in the catcher's favor. We're not really helping catchers out because God knows pitchers are terrible at holding runners. They're still slow to the plate. But you're trying to figure out who are the best throwing catchers. What have we found out since you've really been looking into this?
Yeah, what we did was we came up with a metric that kind of, I think every catcher I've talked to loves it because it takes some of the pressure off of them. Because for 100 years, they've been saying, or the base runner's been saying, hey, I didn't steal that base off the catcher. I stole that base off the pitcher, right? He let me take a huge lead. It doesn't matter how good the catcher's arm is. Now, obviously, that's not entirely true. Some catchers are better or not at this. But with all the StatCast data we have, we can tell you, what's the speed of the base runner? How far off the base did he get? Did he get a good lead or not? What kind of pitch was it? Was it, in the dirt? Was it middle? What side of the plate did the batter hit from? All this stuff goes into the soup. And you take all that and you can say, well, you were really not expected to throw out the runner here. You were given no shot. It was a fast runner with a big lead, and you had a 5% shot of throwing out this runner. So the fact that you didn't shouldn't be held against you. Sometimes it's the other way. Sometimes it's, I don't know, Albert Pujols with a tiny lead, and you better throw him out. You can take all that and kind of get to an expected caught stealing and get to a little bit more of, reflecting what it actually happens on the field and not just it is a caught stealing or not. I think it's cool. I think that's like kind of the next level of what this data can do is to really help us get beyond some of the stats we've had for 100 years there.
And I know not too long ago when, you're looking at catchers and if you signed a catcher, I care if he hits. Like, no one's stealing bags anyway. Well, that's changing. Like, we're seeing it with S.A. Uriz, who's on a record pace here with the A's to shatter the all-time American League rookie record set by Kenny Lofton back in the day, 66. So I got a feeling this is going to be what we're going to see the next 5 years is everybody's going to be running. So how well your catcher throw, that's going to be back in vogue. Hey, maybe your new metric is going to help some guys get paid.
I mean, maybe so. I mean, maybe some guys will not look as great by the metric too, I suppose. I think it's interesting, like what we've seen so far early in the season. Some of the teams have adjusted quickly and some of them haven't. Like take the Twins, for example. They were barely running at all for the first month. And that's partially because with Buxton not really going because he's worried about his health, they just don't have a lot of fast players. I think they have stolen more bases in the last like week than they did in the first 5 weeks of the season. I don't know if that's exactly true, but it's something like that. They've become much more aggressive because I think teams are catching on. The opportunities are there. If the success rate is this high, that means we're not stealing enough. We are leaving too much value on the table. And I think that's one of the most interesting thing about any of these rule changes, whether it's that, the timer, the shift limitations, whatever, is now teams have something new to game plan against. I don't want to say baseball was figured out, last season, but a lot of it was. And now there's new things. And it's really fascinating to see which teams are the early movers and which ones are still trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing here.
Well, I think about leads too. We were getting information. I haven't seen it in a while, but the biggest leads we've ever seen. Have you been following up? Because we know the longer your lead is, the more freedom you got. The guy's not throwing over. I mean, stealing second. I mean, that's like shooting dead fish in a barrel.
Well, yeah, the lead distances haven't gone up by as much as I thought they would. There's definitely some value in drawing one of those disengagements, like making the pitcher step off or throw over, because I think you can just take like a little bit more of a lead. And if you think about it, a stolen base is really measured in fractions of a second. Right? We have pop times down to 2 decimals. A 1.9 pop time is great. A 2.1 pop time is terrible. Like that's how minuscule these things are. So if you can just get like one extra foot of a lead or take off 1/2 a second earlier because you think the pitcher's not going to waste that second disengagement, that is huge. And that kind of goes back to the strategy aspect of it before. You never had to think about these things before. You never had to care about this. And all of a sudden, it's incredibly important. And I think you're going to see more and more guys trying to take advantage of it from that way.
All right, so when you look at these rule changes, and I know we get emails from Major League Baseball, and they're trying to tell us, look how it's changed. And I understand, steering a boat, it takes a while. So, left shifting, the batting average is up a little bit. It's better for left-handers, with stolen bases. I mean, it's going to take time. We'll see what all these changes look like in 2, 3, 4 years. Numbers could be greatly different, but when you've been looking at this, what do you say? Yep, that really worked. And then, yeah, I'm not so sure about that one.
I mean, it's hard to not say that the pitch timer is the one that's worked exactly as intended, right? Like, I don't know exactly what number we're down to at the moment, but it's like 25 minutes of game time. And it's not really game time, it's 25 minutes of dead time. And a lot of the testing that was done in the minor leagues in the past said that's exactly what would happen. The only thing that surprised me really is there just have not been as many blowups early in the season as I thought there would be. I really thought there would be some veteran pitcher who's never done this before who would get hit with an automatic ball because he was too slow and he'd lose his mind. And that really hasn't happened. I think it's to the credit of the players really that they took this seriously and it's gone in wildly smoothly. So that one is I think clearly the most impactful because it's been as advertised. You're getting more baseball in less time. I love that. The other ones, the bigger bases, I don't think we're ever really going to do that much, and they haven't. It's the shift ban has done a little bit. So I think a lot of people thought lefty hitters were going to get like 80 points of batting average back, and a lot of people were like, "No, that's probably not going to happen because pitchers are still really good."
You mean everybody's going to be Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn now? Rod Carew?
I can't tell you how many veteran lefty hitters like Rizzo or Hosmer or guys like that are like, yeah, base hits up the middle. They're coming back. And like they are back a little bit, sure, but also you can still position your shortstop right up the middle. Like a shift limitation is not, concrete feet at the 4 traditional spots. You can still move your guys around within those limitations. And I think teams are still doing a pretty good job of that.
We've seen some guys get off to some really hot starts. We had one of them in Brent Rooker, right? When we were there in New York, they were highlighting him at MLB Network. Another guy that we love a lot who was an Oakland Athletic, Matt Chapman, was off to a screaming start. And then all of a sudden the calendar turns. You go to the next month and it's like, whoa. What do you think about guys who get off to just that incredible start and then the next month it's completely opposite?
I think that's just kind of the way baseball works a lot of the time. I mean, a lot of those starts you wouldn't notice so much if they happened in August, but you notice it right away because Matt Chapman's hitting over 400 for 3 weeks, and that's what you see on the scoreboard. If he has that same hot streak in August, maybe it means his batting average goes from 260 to 290, and you're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. You don't really pay it much attention, but at the beginning of the season, those numbers stand out to you right away. If we're talking specifically about Chapman and Rooker, two very different situations in the sense that Rooker had no track record whatsoever of success. So you've really got the eyeball on him in terms of, is this a fluke? Is this just pitchers trying to figure him out? Because here's a guy who's been through a couple of organizations, got a decent amount of playing time with Minnesota, never really worked out. Obviously, got off to an amazing start earlier this year. He's probably going to make the All-Star team, would be my guess, looking at the A's roster. And I think we need to see enough playing time for him to see if he can adjust to the adjustment. As far as Chapman goes, he is who he is at this point, which is an above average player who is probably not the best hitter in baseball. Like nothing I saw the first month of the season made me think, oh, he's actually Aaron Judge now. No disrespect intended. He's a very good hitter. But when you've got as much of a track record as he does, you kind of know what he's going to be at this point. You knew he was going to play a little bit worse than that. I didn't think May would be as rough as it is, but it's going to even out for him in the end. He's going to be like 25 to 30% above average as a hitter. He's going to get a very nice contract next winter.
So with playoffs expanded, and obviously we do this every single day, so we got to come up with content every day. So much talk about, look how great the AL East is. Their winning percentage, it's the best right now that we've seen in the wild card era. We've looked at this because the best winning percentage for a division was 0-1 and 0-2 for the American League West when the A's and the Mariners both went off and everybody in the division was good. But, right now, it can look one way, but once you get to the playoffs, you never know. Somebody's going to have to win the AL Central. Obviously, the American League right now looks stronger than the National League, but it's kind of like are we jumping to conclusions about how good the AL East is and how good the American League is, and we're kind of like forgetting, hey, these other teams, you don't know what could be like come October.
I'm not sure I totally agree with you that someone has to win the American League Central. I feel like in the back of the rule book, there might be some kind of loophole where maybe nobody has to win the American League Central and we can just build the entire playoffs out of the East and the West, because we're real close to having the entire American League Central being under 500.
Well, who could you move to the Central? Maybe could you put the Rangers in the Central so the Astros win the West and the Rangers win the Central?
You can make an argument that Toronto geographically could be in the Central. They're not that far away from Detroit. Right? That's probably the one. Here's the thing. These teams, with the exception of Texas, I guess, who's playing better than I thought they would, none of these teams are that surprising. Like, we all thought the 5 teams in the American League East would be different flavors of pretty good. We always knew the American League Central was going to be, difficult. And in the West, yes, Texas has been better than I thought. I think the A's are maybe playing a little bit worse than I thought they would. But otherwise, what's surprising? Like, this is a lot of it is exactly what we would thought coming into the season. And it's not that dissimilar in the West either. Like, the Dodgers were kind of a question mark, and yet there they are on top of the division again. The 4 best divisions are the 4 coastal divisions. I know I'm in New York and you're in the Bay Area, and that makes us look like we're talking about flyover country, like there's no baseball there, and there is, but this is where the teams are.
Well, they did an article on it I was a couple weeks ago in the USA Today, and I hadn't thought about it because I don't think of baseball or football or basketball coast or flyover states, Midwest. But we haven't had a whole lot of success when you think about it. I think the last teams to really do something, we'd have to go back to what? The Cubs and the Indians in the World Series. Since then, it has been all the teams on the coast.
Yeah, it really has been. I think that goes to maybe the different structure of the different sports. The other sports all have a salary cap and baseball doesn't really. But it kind of comes down to the fact that, how much of this is going to change soon? Like, are the Dodgers not going to be good anytime soon? Are the Yankees and Mets going to stop spending big money? Like, not really. I think you need like a Rays-ish team to come out of one of the Centrals. I kind of thought maybe that would be like the Tigers or the Royals, and that hasn't really happened yet. White Sox seem like they're kind of nearing the end of their window. One of those teams is going to get to the playoffs, but I think they're going to surprise us. Because remember, last year, the Phillies didn't actually win that many games, and they made it to the World Series. Would it shock you totally if, I don't know, the Brewers or even the Cardinals went on a hot streak for 3 weeks and ended up in the World Series, and then everything looks totally different? Like, it's not that hard to see that happening.
No, it's not. I'm looking at the standings right now, and Pittsburgh started to crumble a little bit. They were a great story early, but there's just – that is kind of odd where you have all these teams in the Central, and it's just like, here we are. As you said, They're not going to stop spending money in LA. They're not going to stop spending money in Anaheim. God knows how much the Padres have committed. You look at the Giants are going to spend money. Hopefully someday we do. You look at the Northeast and all the money there and the battle there. It's like at some point, though, we do need the Central to be part of this thing.
We do, and I don't want to make it too much about money. It's not just about the payroll, right? Like San Diego spent a lot, and they're 4 games under 500. The Rays don't really spend very much at all, and they're the best team in baseball. So it's not just about payroll size, obviously. I think maybe a lot of it is about competition. If you're in the East, if you're in the West, you see the behemoths, and you're like, we really got to up our game. I'm never going to beat the Dodgers if I don't do something. I'm never going to beat the Yankees if I don't do something. There's not the same kind of pressures in the Central. You can be decent and get yourself into the playoffs. You don't necessarily have to say, I have to be incredible to get to the playoffs, because you might win the Centrals with 87 wins this year.
So Commander Cody, my producer, wanted me to ask you this because obviously we see you on MLB Network. You go on the show MLB Now, and a great conversation there. We haven't really been able to get into it today. We've got Mariners today, Mike. This is game 3 of a 4-game set. We've been really busy today here, but looking at the conversation, Trout catching up, Griffey, Joe D, War. You think about DiMaggio, you think about Griffey. When you talk about Mike Trout and you start getting into the, where he's going to be going now for the next few years with these all-time greats, how do you lump him in there with like Joe DiMaggio and Ken Griffey Jr.?
Well, I said Mike Trout was going to be the greatest player of all time like 5 years ago. So I like to think I was ahead of the curve on that. When it comes to what he does on the field and his value as a player and the level of competition he has to face, because remember, a lot of those guys, like, Joe DiMaggio certainly played before integration, and he didn't have the same level of competition that Mike Trout did. Never played night games for the most part. He didn't have to fly to the West Coast. Didn't have to have 10 relievers throwing 98-mile-an-hour sliders like Trout does. Mike Trout is a better baseball player. The thing that Mike Trout will never, ever reach is the amount of legend, because he doesn't play for the Yankees, and he's probably never going to win a World Series. I hate to say that at this point in his career. He's got time left. Like, who knows what'll happen, but it hasn't come close yet. I'm not sure that this year is the year. So if we're calling the Hall of Fame, like, emphasis on fame, he's never going to be DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, Ken Griffey, all these guys. But in terms of the best player we've seen, he's going to be Willie Mays-esque. He's going to be in the top 3, not just because he has great years, but because he's had like 10 of them in a row. And even now, people are like, oh, Mike Trout's not having his best year, which is true. He's still having a very good year. Isn't that an amazing compliment? Boy, you're not having a great year, but man, that year is still great. And that says to me like a lot about how great Trout is. I almost feel like he's underappreciated in his time just because we never get to see him on the biggest stage. We never get to see him in the playoffs, the World Series, and it's kind of a shame for the sport, really.
Well, you don't have to convince the Oakland A's fans. You see the Coliseum behind me. You think about all the great players who have played against the Oakland A's since 1968. One more home run by Mike Trout against the A's, and he's now hit more home runs against the Oakland A's as an opposing player than anybody else. And think how young he is. And you think of all the great players, and let's face it, too, all the time Trout's been playing, a lot of the years he's been in the league, the A's have been good, whether winning the division or being the wild card team. So it's not like I mean, we're in a bad spell right now, but he's faced a lot of good A's teams. He's tortured us. Look at his career numbers against the A's. Look at his career numbers against the Texas Rangers. I think Ranger fans would say the thing we would say, hey, you want to trade him to the Yankees? Be my guest. We're tired of seeing him that much.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't have his numbers in front of me. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there's not a team he hasn't tortured, at least ones he's played more than 2 or 3 times. He kills everybody, Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's probably you've seen it more because you see him so many times per season, although less now with the balanced schedule. You won't have to see him as often, which I guess is kind of a boon. But he's not going to get traded, I don't think. I think Ohtani is going to depart after this year because he's a free agent. And I don't think Trout's going to go anywhere. He's got that contract forever. They're not going to want to lose both the superstars in one season. And you won't have to face Ohtani as much. Although, who knows? Seattle, I think, is a possible destination for him. So you might end up seeing him quite as much.
Yeah, where if you had to give like top 3 options for Shohei Ohtani, what would you put it at?
Dodgers, Padres, Mariners, I think are the clear top 3. You got to throw the Mets in there, obviously, because Steve Cohen may want to give him all of the money in the entire world, and that's possibly true. But those seem like the three, most obvious landing places. Certainly, they could all fit him in terms of talent. He chose to be on the West Coast when he first came to America. I don't know for sure that he would still do that, but that's obviously what he did the first time. And those are teams that would be incredibly happy to have him. There's some others, the Yankees, the Mets. Could you see a dark horse like maybe the Giants step up possibly? But Dodgers, Padres, Mariners would be my best guess.
We're saying no on Kansas City.
I would never say never. I've never been to Kansas City, but I hear it's a lovely place to live and play. I look
Great
forward to checking
barbecue.
it out.
We don't know.
sometime.
Maybe he loves barbecue. Maybe
so.
Quickly, just with you mentioned the Padres. We've known Bob Melvin. I did the Bob Melvin show for a long time. Melvin's a friend. Spent a lot of time with him. Speaking in spring training, I knew there was issues. It's been kind of a little bit of a toxic culture that people have not really known a lot about. People are just, it's Slam Diego. Everybody's having fun in San Diego, and just, you're kind of seeing it with the team. And they have $863 million that's being sent out to players in the next 10, 11 years. That's either contract extensions or free agents. You talk about Shohei Ohtani, they'll put it to well over $1 billion. Just how do you think this, and you still got Juan Soto that you're going to have to deal with. Just how do you think this thing plays out?
I don't think they're so much worried about the future as they are about winning right now this year. And some of what's happened this year has been surprising, and some of it less so. Like they have, I think, the weakest or second weakest catching situation in baseball. That's not surprising. That wasn't going to be a strength. Is it surprising to me that Manny Machado got off to such a poor start? Yes, it is. When he comes off the IL, like there's no reason to think that he won't turn it around. Soto has been great, like after a rough first start. I think there's too much talent here for it not to work out. I don't think they're going to beat the Dodgers, though. Like I had picked them to win the West, and I no longer think that's true. I think it's interesting because things haven't gone well. And then when you look at the stars, like I said, Soto's been great. Nobody's paid attention to the fact that Josh Hader had like a 6 ERA last year and has been amazing this year. Oh, you're pointing at someone who said it. I hope that's Cody.
Commander
Cody's a smart
Cody
man.
is like Josh. He's got a poster. He's like a kid. He's got a poster of Josh Hader in his room.
The slang is I'm a Josh Hader stan is what you're looking for.
Yes, I love it. That's correct because Cody is smart and he knows his baseball. And like you look at the rotation. Do I think Blake Snell's going to have an ERA over 5 all year long? No, I don't. They're too good to not pull it together. I agree with you that manager is one of the best managers in the game. There's people are like, well, maybe they should shake things up with a managerial changes. Like that's not it. I don't think he's the problem there. I think they've had issues with other managers in the past, but that's not what's happening here. Kind of all you can do is let it play out. Maybe get an upgraded catcher, find another starting pitcher if you're able to. But basically, you put together this team. You've got a ton of talent. Fernando Tatis has really taken nicely to the outfield. He's played very well out there. And at a certain point, the talent's going to take over. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter because everyone's going to get fired and it'll be someone else's problem.
All right, let's end on this. Since you're saying Mike Trout is greatness, when we talk Disneyland, Florida, Disney World, which ride is the Mike Trout of Disney World?
Well, I haven't been to the one in California in a long time, but I'll tell you the Disney World one, if you're into Star Wars especially, called Rise of the Resistance, and they basically put you inside a movie. There's like real actors there acting out the parts of Imperial Guards, and you feel like you are in space, like during a battle. It's one of the coolest things I've ever ridden. My son is 7; he rode it with me, and he wanted to go back on like 10 more times. That is A+ of the one you have to go to.
Yeah, we have that in California. I'm just not sure it's the same size, because everything I hear is the size of the rides may be different. But yeah, but we have that too. The only thing is when your son wants to go on it like 4 or 5 times, you do have to tell him how long the line is, right?
Well, I do. Here's a real quick funny story. He was fine with that. My daughter is 4. She does not understand the concept of having to get off and let other people do it. So a memory I'll always have is carrying her screaming off of Pirates of the Caribbean. That's not something every father gets to say, but I'll have that one for a long time.
Hey, great stuff. It's always good to have you on, and we'll be reading you, watching you, and following everything you're doing because nobody better than you in our game covering Major League Baseball.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Cody. Take care.
Mike Petriello from MLB.com, one of the smartest guys. Look at you guys, a little hater. No haterade for you guys. Mike Petriello doing a great job covering Major League Baseball. And a lot of fun having him on. And it's hard to believe that You could be once again. We keep talking about this whole thing about payroll that the Padres payroll could be, or the money that they guarantee going forward could be over $1 billion. $1 billion.
It's gonna be interesting.
Oh my God!
I mean, we've talked about Ohtani with them, and he threw out Seattle, which I don't hear a lot of people say Seattle. I told you I think Seattle is a dark horse. But if San Diego goes after him, there's no way they sign Soto, right?
I think there's no way he signs in Seattle.
I'm just looking for the Ichiro connection there. And
what the hell is that? This guy basically says he wants to win. That's all he said. He wants to win. What Ichiro? What would Ichiro win? They went to the playoffs for the first time since 2001.
Since Ichiro was there.
What says winning in Seattle if you're he's been going up there kicking their as an angel. Why would he think that is the place I'm going to go?
It's a good question. It's a fair point.
There's one place that he knows he can win and win a title and win multiple titles. And no, it's not the San Francisco Giants. Yes, I know you did, but
that was almost 10 years ago.
10 years ago. It was a long time.
Brandon Crawford's hitting 165. Okay, come on.
Oh, B-Craw. I don't know why I just took a shot at Brandon Crawford.
Yeah, great.
Put him on the wall next to Bernard, all right? And Jason Schmidt and those guys.
We can confirm we are going to go and find Marvin Bernard on the wall sometime this summer. We earned NBC a few more times this summer.
If I'm Barry Bonds and you put me on that dumb wall, I'm literally the greatest player of all time. Like you're talking Mike Trout's the greatest player. Right? If I'm Barry Bonds, and I can't stand Bonds, but I'm Barry Bonds and I'm literally the greatest player to have ever played. And you're putting me on a wall with Jason Schmidt.
That's when I think Jason Schmidt, I think Pirates.
Don't Rob Nen me. I'm Barry Bonds.
He was a good Giant.
It doesn't matter. I'm Barry Bonds. There was a Sports Illustrated. I'm on the cover, and the cover says, I'm Barry Bonds, and you're not. Anybody else had that? And you're going to put me on the wall with, like who? Bobby Estalella?
Chestalea.
Bill Miller? Bill Miller.
Because
Shinjo? Is Shinjo on the wall?
Better question is when's
Kirk Reeder? You putting me on there with lefty Kirk Reeder?
Woody is on the wall. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I bet he's on the wall.
He did.
Who isn't on the wall?
He did have the. For the longest time, he was the winningest left-handed pitcher in Giants history until Madison Bumgarner passed him.
Actually, I've interviewed a lot. We've had him on this show, haven't we? I had him on 95.7.
Yeah, I used to book him at 95.7.
Kirk Reeder's the nicest guy.
Maybe we'll get him for the
Woody.
Maybe we'll get him for when the Giants play.
Russ Ortiz on the wall.
Oh, game 7. Was it game 6?
Game 6.
Game 6, Russ. And I'm not talking about Russell Westbrook either. And we'll have to go check out this wall and see what's going on.
Do we really have to go? I mean, can we just make fun of it and never go to it?
I do think doing a segment there, a 2-minute video with Marvin Bernard would be kind of funny.
Our fans. Why are you at the wall? Why? I could just see the whining and complaining if we go to the wall. Well, that will. We should just go, hey, we know you're going to whine and complain about it, but we're going to have fun and joke about the wall.
That's what we're doing it for. We're doing it for content, not in
laughter. You should never leave Oakland. How could you even go to San Francisco?
The Joker once said laughter is the best medicine, so I just go off what one of the greatest villains of all time says.
Which Joker is this?
I mean,
the greatest Joker is Cesar Romero.
From the original Batman with Adam West.
Who is an actual comedian.
Burgess Meredith is the Penguin.
That is correct.
I used to watch that show, and I have the movie too.
Adam West.
Burt Young was Robin.
Yeah, no, that old Batman.
Someone else is in there too. It was the Joker.
Cesar Romero.
Oh, Cesar Romero. Then okay. Who was the Riddler?
The Riddler was a famous comedian too. Fred Gorshin.
Yeah. There you go. There's a lot of people on that.
And then Catwoman was famous. I don't remember her name, but she was famous.
Yeah, you're really dating. This is when my dad was a kid. My dad loves those Batmans. I mean, he likes.
Oh, they're pre-me, right? Yeah. Weren't they? When was that Batman?
In the 60s, like late 60s.
I just remember as a kid they were on. I loved them. Batman was awesome.
I just watched Batman the other day. With Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson.
Who was Mr. Freeze? They were famous actors in this show. Who was Mr. Freeze? I mean, it was honored in the movies. That's my Arnold Schwarzenegger.
1966 to 1968. I mean, I have the movie. The Batmobile was awesome, by the way. Yeah. I grew up because my dad's a huge Batman guy.
You ready for a little more Arnold? Get to the chopper.
That's a Predator.
Predator.
Okay, let's see. Not directed. Where's the cast? Okay.
Oh, there's a Townsend up there, right?
Alan Napier was Alfred. The Joe. Who are we looking for?
Mr. Freeze. Caesar Romero was the Joker.
Julie Newmar was Catwoman.
Julie Newmar. She was famous back then. Frank Gorshin was the Riddler.
Where's? I don't see Mr. Freeze.
Egghead.
I don't see Mr. Freeze on here.
Vincent Price. Yeah, it was Egghead. Yeah, it was Egghead. He wasn't Mr. Egghead. Vincent Price. Famous. You know Vincent Price is, right? From all the Halloween shows and the great Vincent Price.
No.
Remember the voice from Thriller? The man's voice.
That's him?
That's Vincent Price.
I had no idea.
I'm working with a child. But then again, a lot of you out there might be. Brett, go back and
I was born in 1988.
The famous voice from Thriller, the video, the song.
Can you do the dance?
No.
Maybe we should figure it out for we know how big you are for Halloween. Maybe we should learn the Thriller dance for Halloween.
Too soon to dress as Michael Jackson for Halloween and the Thriller outfit?
I don't know. I don't know what the climate is on that one.
I dressed as John Gruden one Christmas not too long ago.
That's your
too soon?
That's your contact photo when you call me.
Too soon.
And you have the SaberCats ring on.
I have the real championship ring on, not a fake one, but a real Arena League football ring on, and I have the headset on. I got all the Raider gear. When I was handing out candy, because we had to do it outside, right? We have to do everything outside. COVID. So all the dads would line up, and the kids would come up my driveway, and they'd all be like, Gruden! They all knew I was.
So we only have a couple minutes left. Should we talk about what's the biggest thing from today? Now, you asked me if we had any sound, and the only thing
happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
It's happy birthday time. Happy birthday!
Can I play the highlight first? Then?
Oh yes.
Okay. The greatest highlight in the history of baseball happened 7 years ago, but happy 50th to this guy.
Cologne looking for his first hit of the year. He drives one deep left field. That goes Upton back near the wall. It's out of here. Bartolo has done it. The impossible has happened.
We don't need to play the whole highlight. It was like a minute, still a minute left in it.
Was that about James Shields?
It was off James Shields.
Big game James.
Well, that's why
we never won a big game.
That's where we the moniker from. 50 or hit his first and only home run that day. That was Gary Cohen.
He was a Met, right? When he did that?
Yeah. In San Diego at Petco Park. He crushed the ball. All the players vacated the dugout.
I thought you were going to play the one where he got hit in his belly and it stuck in his belly.
No. Also, on April 18, 2012, he threw 38 straight strikes versus the Los Angeles Angels in an 8 scoreless inning.
Where was that game?
Anaheim.
It was in Anaheim.
This is what Johnny Gomes said after the game. You can't get 38 strikes out of a pitching machine. I've never seen anything like it. Incredible 35 of his 38 strikes were fastballs.
Two seamers.
So
all day.
Bartolo,
all day.
We don't have time to get into it, but there was a whole thing about how what's tougher to do, Joe DiMaggio hitting 56 games in a row or Bartolo throwing 38 consecutive strikes. They actually broke it down. It's actually harder to throw 38 straight strikes than it is to hit 56 straight games.
I'm not buying that.
It's a whole MLB.com article. I'll send it to you.
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that.
It's roughly 1 in 60,000 with the numbers they use, roughly 1 in 770,000, or 13 times higher than it is to hit in the 56-game hitting streak.
Well, it's also subjective, too, because some of those are just called by an umpire.
Yeah, oh, yes.
So there were pitches that were, and I guess I could play to it because there's the human error part of it.
Yeah, But
happy 50th birthday,
50th.
Barty.
In his career as EA, 2012-2013, this includes a 50. What was the suspension? Was it 50? 50 then?
Yeah, it was done for the season.
Yeah. 28-15 in his career as an A, 2.99 ERA, 208 strikeouts, and 342 and 2/3 innings. He did win a Cy Young before as well.
Just take a guess what year, how long ago it was.
Wasn't he an Angel when he won the Cy Young?
Just take a guess.
2004.
2005, the year my kids were born.
That's a long time
It's
ago.
crazy how long ago that was.
I was a sophomore in high school.
Bartolo Colon. What did he win? 240 something?
247 wins, a 46.2 WAR, 2,535.
Was he one of the best pitchers of his time? He won a Cy. Winning percentage pretty dang good. Struck out a ton of guys, gave you a ton of innings. You never bring him up as a future Hall of Famer. Why not Bartolo Colon? You're going to put that hack. I'm not going to call him a hack, but you're talking about putting other guys in there right around. You're going to put in Greinke, but not Bartolo Colon?
Greinke, much higher WAR, more strikeouts.
He's just an accumulator. He's now just
he played for really bad Kansas City teams.
He played for really good Dodger teams.
And Brewers are pretty good too.
Greinke and Astros. Greinke played
what
on
about
a
his Diamondback
lot of
years?
good teams. A lot of good teams. We think we need to make a case, Bartolo Colon. You're going to put all these other guys in, put Bartolo Colon in. We got pot for PEDs.
Hall of very good.
If you're going to allow Big Poppy to get on PEDs, how you can't tell me it was helping Bartolo Colon be like the PEDs were not helping Bartolo Colon the way they were helping Jose Canseco.
No, not at all. How was it helping Barty? Was it keeping him in shape?
I have no idea. And I can't even remember what he was on. He wasn't in shape. He had the worst. He was the best bad body guy of all time.
Yeah, but he was pitching every 5 days.
He was incredible. But I don't even know how it helped him. Because he just threw the same pitches over and over and over again.
It was a two-seam fastball.
92, 93.
38 straight times he did, and 35 of them were fastballs.
All righty, we are back tomorrow.
Back tomorrow. Your guy, Mark Simon from Sports Info Solutions.
Oh, I love him. He's got the craziest stuff.
And they also supply the umpiring data to NBC Sports California. You hear Dallas talk about. And we're going to have Eno tomorrow.
Melissa Lockard did not, by the way, she did not buy my whole thing. Oh, we'll be at the Coliseum next year.
Yeah, I don't know.
She was like, if you say so. I'm like, the schedule's already, once the schedule's in play, nobody's moving.
Yeah. Well,
we will be at the Coliseum next year.
I do like your thought about how many home runs will a guy hit in Vegas. If that's
Jesus.
Hey, Brent Rooker, 55 home runs in Las Vegas. Jesus.
You know what? Everybody hates Barry Bonds, so if someone hit 74 jacks, probably they wouldn't mind.
Yeah, yeah. Pete Alonso on pace for 60.
Anything to get Barry off the list.
Pete Alonso on pace for 60. I'd love to see him break set.
Mike
62.
Petriello, Melissa Lockard, thank you for coming on the program. Thank you for watching A's Cast Live. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Up next, it's going to be Ed Sprague, and then A's Total Access, brought to you by Chevron. This is Chris Townsend. There are two things that are a must for me: comfort and style. Whether I'm playing golf, going to dinner, I've got to have the right feel.